Well, hello there. Today, I'd like to talk with you about how to find the distance between 2 points on the Cartesian plane, which is what this thing is called. Okay? So, we're going to develop something called the distance formula, and eventually we'll be able to find the distance between 2 points that were given without the need of a graph at all. But in the beginning, it's nice to have a Cartesian plane like this so that we can plot the points and just see how to do this. So let's randomly come up with 2 points right now. So we'll come up with 1 point and then another point. Let's say the point 1, 2, so 1 across and 2 up. So this point right here. So 1 over and 2 up, there's that point. And another point somewhere around here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I don't know, 3, 4, 5. How about 7 across and 5 up? So 7 across and 5 up. So here we have 2 points. We have 1, 2 right here and 7, 5 right here. These are called ordered pairs, by the way, just a fancy word. And these become points on the Cartesian plane. And we are supposed to today find the distance between these 2 points. So we're supposed to find the distance. I'm showing you in red from here to here. All right. Now, if I left this with you for a while, and if you'd watched my other videos, and if you'd seen another video of mine on the Pythagorean Theorem, you would say, hey, wait a minute. You could, and I'll show that in blue, you could turn this into a triangle right here. A 90-degree triangle. And with a 90-degree angle right here, there's a 90-degree triangle. This red part is called the hypotenuse. And then there's the two sides. These are called the legs. And the distances, or the lengths of these lines, are much easier to tell right away without any math at all. All we have to do is look and say, well, the distance here is, I guess you could say, the rise. It's the vertical part of this. So we could count 1, 2, 3. This is 3 squares high. And another way to do it would be to say, well, 5 minus 2 is 3. And by the way, if we were looking at the horizontal part, 7 minus 1 is 6. And let's see if that's true. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It is 6. So all you have to do is really subtract the y part for over here, for the vertical part. For the horizontal part, just subtract the x's, and then you will come up with that distance. Anyway, so we have 6 and 3 as our legs. How would we find this hypotenuse right here? Well, with the Pythagorean theorem, which you might remember looks something like this, c squared equals a squared plus b squared. All you have to do, if this is the hypotenuse right here, all you have to do is go 6 squared plus 3 squared. So 6 squared would be 36. 3 squared, that's 3 times 3, that would be 9. 36 plus 9 is 45. And then the final answer, obviously this red line is not 45. The final answer is to get rid of this little squared is you take the square root of both sides and you end up getting the square root of 45. And I'm going to do that on my calculator right now. I'm going to round it off to 1 decimal place, 6.7. So this length right here is 6.7. Okay? So can you remember that? It is 6.7. Let's remember 1, 2, and 7, 5. And I'm going to write it again right here. Okay, so let's try and do this using 1, 2, and 7, 5. 1, 2, and 7, 5. Let's try and do this without the need of the Cartesian plane. Okay, we won't use this. All right? So remember, c squared is a squared plus b squared. And on the other page, you'll see that we had the number 6 there. How did we find that number 6? Well, we took 7 minus 1. So what we did is we took 7 minus 1, which made 6, and we squared it. Okay, 7 minus 1. Those are the x values. We could call this x2 and this x1. And then we added up the y values, or sorry, we subtracted these two numbers. So let's call this y2 and y1. 5 minus 2 in brackets. That bracket is terrible. Squared. And then we ended up getting 6 squared plus 3 squared. And we ended up getting the answer that we did. And I won't go through it all because it's just like rewriting the whole thing again. But we ended up getting 6.7. Okay? So this is the general idea of how you could do it without actually having to do it on a graph. You would just subtract the x's, and it doesn't matter what order you do it in. You could subtract the y's first and put them here and then the x's, but you could go x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. And if you do that, you end up coming up with the answer that we were looking for without the need to actually graph this thing. Okay, so the formula for the distance formula, sometimes it's written like this with a d, is you would take the square root. In the very end, remember how you'd take the square root, okay? At the very end, if you recall, we had to take the square root right here. So instead of writing c squared equals a squared plus b squared, we're going to be going instead of c squared equals a squared plus b squared, I'm going to put this square root sign just to show all the steps in one. That's kind of what they do. When you see the distance formula in a textbook, they've already gotten rid of this little 2 right here by putting the square root sign. I hope that makes sense why I'm putting that here right now, just because I'm writing it out the way you'd see in a textbook. So it'd be x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. And this, my friends, is the distance formula. So let's practice this. Let's see if this actually will work. Let's pick 2 different points. Let's pick some tougher ones too. Let's say one of ours is 3 across and 4 up. No, sorry. Yeah, 3 and 3. There we go. So that's 3 and 3. And let's pick another one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 2 down. So that would be -5 and -2. Okay. So how you would enter this in the formula, I would just start labeling these points x1 and y1. So I don't know, it doesn't really matter. I'll call this one x1 and y1. And over here I'll call this x2 and y2. And because I've labeled them like this, now I can just enter these points into this formula that we have for the distance. Okay? So x2 is right here. It's -5. -5 minus x1 is 3 squared. And y2 minus y1, -2 minus 3. And then square that. All right. So -5 minus 3, if you're very careful, be very careful when you do that. -5 minus 3 is -8 squared plus -2 minus 3 is -5. And you can push pause if you don't know how I got that. Try it on your calculator. Try to think about it a little more if that part's confusing, because it's no fun running along in math and not really knowing how a number came to be. -8 times -8 is 64. And -5 times -5 is 25. Remember, when you square something, the answer will always be positive. Because when you multiply a number by itself, it's always positive. So 64 plus 25 is 89. And I'll make a little more room here. And the square root of 89 is, I'm just using my calculator here, 9.4. If this was centimeters, I'd write centimeters. But basically what we found out is that this distance from here to here, the distance from here to here, is 9.4. Okay? And by the way, if you forget the distance formula, let's say you're doing a test and you forget this, or maybe your teacher hasn't allowed you to write down a cheat sheet, or there's no formula sheet, you could quickly sketch it out just like I did right here, and then think about the triangle again, and then think, well, how high is it from here to here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 5. And the distance between here and here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And look at that. There's 5 and 8 here under the radical sign, right here under the square root sign. And yeah, so you're going to end up getting the exact same. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. You're going to end up getting the same answer right here as what we got. I think it was 9.4. Okay, 9.4. You're going to get 9.4 if you do this triangle right here. And that is the distance formula, folks. I could keep doing that over and over again, but I think this is just the basics, and I just wanted to show you how to do the distance formula when they're giving you 2 points. And remember, you can always quickly sketch something if you really need to, just to help you get the right answer in case you're a little bit confused by this formula here. Hopefully that helps get you started on these kinds of questions. And I apologize because I'm stopping here and not really going further. What I will do next is talk about how to find the middle, or the midpoint between 2 points. That'll be the next video. Okay, good luck out there in your own math challenged world. Have a great day, everyone.